everybody, and welcome to Don't Be a Meathead. Mark Thomas here with Dr. Alan Manison. Fun topic today. And this is something, Alan, you've told me about several times when I've seen you in the office, when you've been treating me, and you've really been on me that I've got to try it. I have to go take a trip and try ski boarding. So, what the heck is ski boarding? I mean, I know what skiing is. I know what snowboarding is. It's like, skis met snowboards. Next thing you know, they have a baby and we got ski boards.
It would be nice if that were the case, but skis are forward. You're standing looking down the mountain, and on a snowboard, you're looking sideways. So, what ski boards are essentially a shorter version of a ski and a wider version of a ski. And then they work the physics a little bit. It's tweaked so that it makes it a safer ride. So, Mark, I'm in sports med work. I'm all about injury prevention, but I want to have a good time. I grew up skiing on long skis. I had what were called straight skis originally when I skied with my dad in Switzerland as a kid. It was an amazing time. I loved it. But, the carving was always tougher and you need to lean down at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And when you're a kid or you're in good shape or you're light or you're lithe, I'm a pretty muscular guy, like 200 pounds. So hitting moguls on long skis can be difficult. You catch an edge, you fall. So lo and behold, now we have something called ski boards, which I think is actually an evolution to the ski. I think a lot of people who are diehard true skiers, like my wife would say, oh, poo-poo that. That's not true. But for me, my ilk, my patients, everyone I know who I've gotten into ski boarding, it is an absolute evolutionary step in the right direction for going on a mountain, moving down at whatever speed you want to move at, and do it in a much more safe fashion.
So, are they just short skis or what are they?
Let me show you. So I'm going to show you several different types here. And I am a very big fan of the brand called Revel 8, RVL 8. I'm a big fan. For full disclosure, I get no commissions. I get no compensation. I get nothing for doing this. I'm a sports med guy. I have tons of patients using them. I use them. I absolutely love them. So that's the brand I like. And I'll go behind why I like this brand the most. I'll go behind the physics behind everything. And for those who like other brands and other competitors, I think it's great. I think anyone on Skiboards, it's good for you, all different brands. I think these are going to be safer and more fun all the way through than compared to the competitors. But it's like what Elon Musk does with Tesla, right? All electric cars are good. So get them out there, even though if you don't buy Tesla, get another one. It's all good for that. I think for Skiboards, they're all great, but I'm a Revel 8 fan. Let me explain why. So this is a ski board. And if you look at the size of it, you'll see it's quite a bit shorter than a normal ski. I could have put out my old skis, which I don't use anymore. But this one, I believe, is about I don't even know off the top of my head anymore because I have several of them. It's a little under 110 centimeters. So if you see it, it's really wide, right?
Mm-hmm.
See how wide that is? And
Yeah,
if you look at
definitely
it, if I
wider
were to put
than
it,
your ski.
if you can see the bend in here, that's called a camber. And so when we put our foot on here directly, what we have is with the Revel 8 is we have a binding and a riser board. And if you look at the riser here, you'll see that it's kind of bowed. So the
Mm-hmm.
ski board itself, in this case, this board is what's called rockered, which means the front it rocks up so we can hit powder really nicely. And it's cambered, so when we drop our foot flat on it, that's where the pressure goes, so we can carve under our foot. So a lot of people with different injuries, hip injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries, leaning forward at a 10 and 2 o'clock position, and driving your body into your boot and then coming out of that and moving can be a little intimidating and a little difficult, especially if you have injuries. I mean, even if you don't have injuries, just learning how to do it can be tough. When you have a ski board and a riser, as you see right here, with your boot on that, you're really going to be turning more from the mid boot or a little bit in front. So it's a much more comfortable ride. You actually ride more upright. If I'm going to lean forward, I can, but I can be upright. So it's much more comfortable in my quads. You do not fatigue on these after a long day. If you notice that rocker, you notice that there's space underneath between the rocker and the board, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what that gives us is the ability of the board to flex and move. So you have a little bit more individuality of how you want to ride, but it also makes the board adapt to terrain, almost like a shoe would, in which case you have much more control and a much greater feel for what's going on. Now, there are ski boards out there that don't use the riser. They will take the binding and put it right on the board. Well, the problem with that is you reduce the flex in the board and the movement in the board. The other problem with that is how about getting on edge? So if you're going to carve successfully, you want to basically be able to take your board and be able to move it back and forth to be able to catch an edge on either side. If
Mm-hmm.
I have a higher center of gravity here, and I lean, and remember, look at how wide this board is. So if I lose that riser board and that it gained advantage of elevation, when I want to turn on it, I have to be going really fast to get that on edge. If I'm going slow, I can't turn that board. I can't bend it. I can't get it to go onto edge. Not really bend it, but go on edge. With the riser, I'm already elevated, so when I lean, it will naturally shift the board back and forth. So not only is it a much easier way to carve, it makes it a lot safer. Now, the people will say, well, you have a higher center of gravity. That means you have a greater risk of injury. No, you're in a ski boot, in this case, a normal ski boot, whether you have an 80 flex, 90 flex, 100 flex. And the flex number basically tells us about how rigid the boot is. The higher the flex number, the less kind of mobility you have in the boot. Most people would say it's more uncomfortable the higher the flex number, which is true. But when you're using a ski board, you don't need to lock down with a racing boot because you're not driving into the front of the boot so hard when you're skiing. When you're skiing downhill at 65 miles an hour, you're leaning into those skis, you're carving hard. You need something that's going to hold the movement really well, or else you'll be in trouble. The great thing about ski boards is they're highly maneuverable. They will pick up a lot of speed, don't kid yourself. But you don't need to be really driving that hard with it. So you don't need quite the flex generally that you would need with an advanced skier, or in a hard ski boot with a lot of speed. I would go with, I had an 80 flex boot. I just switched over to a 90 because I'm getting better with skiboarding. And I want to have as I pick up more speed, I do want to have a little bit more feedback when I'm carving at higher speed. But it's not really necessary. Some people, due to body weight, if they're heavier, 230, 240, want to have a little bit more of a higher flex number just so it holds their body weight a little bit better. So if we look at this particular board here, and this one is called the Spliff. This one is cambered, like I said, so it has a curve here, so it drops down and flattens, and it's rockered. So this is the second board that I originally got. This is my favorite board in the world. Whenever I go out and I ski, I take this board out first because I don't know about the conditions. This will handle powder really well. This handles groomers well. No ski, no board, no snowboard handles ice well. So we'll get it out there right now. But you hit moguls in this thing, it's a dream. I do have another board before we get to I have actually 4 sets of boards because I have so much fun with this.
Hey, while you're getting that board, just because it's wider, it's easier to balance, right?
Oh, it's like I make the joke with my patients that it's like skiing on a lunch tray because you have so much more control and so much more comfort on a ski board. I can't tell you how many times I've been out skiing and on a gondola, or people at the bottom of the hill where like our relatives or a wife or a husband's waiting, and they're like, honey, if you could get me those, I'd go out with you again. A lot of people have given up skiing due to injuries, or they're afraid, or I had a bad experience. My mother, my son, my daughter had a bad experience. If you can simplify skiing for them and make it safer and it's still enjoyable, you go for it. I mean, people go, oh, well, it's a ski board. They're really slow. I like to go fast. And I'm like, hogwash. There's a gentleman who's a big influencer for, I think, for Revel 8. He has on his Strava like 84 miles an hour on his. I mean, so who's skiing at 84 miles an hour? Nobody.
Right.
If you are, you're basically in the Olympics, you're professional, you're doing something. Most people, like even me on my Strava, when I'm using ski boards and I'm going as fast as I can, which I don't aim to do. I like to stay alive and have fun. I don't want to kill myself, but I've hit like mid 40s and that's enough. If I don't go above 40, I'm happy. I like to hit blue groomers, black groomers. I'll hit some moguls. I don't have a problem with that. That's my range, advanced, intermediate, low level, advanced. But I'm not out there trying to kill myself. I need to be able to go back to work when I come back from a ski trip. That's where I am. These are good for everyone, whether you're in a terrain park, whether you want to ski, you have injuries, you're a kid, you're an adult. This is the only way to go.
So this is a different version of the ski board right here.
This is the first board I ever got. For those who know Revel 8 will know what this is. This is called a Blunt XL. This board does not have that camber. It's completely flat. It's pretty thin, but it has a big rocker on it. So when you have a big powder day out west or anywhere, you put these babies on. Now they are not going to carve very well. You see how wide these are? These are even wider than the other ones. So even with the riser and the binding on it. And another thing that's really cool about Revel 8 is, guess what? They don't drill this into the board. It's meaning I can take the same bindings and riser and move it around to all my boards. So depending on the condition of what if there's a lot of powder, I'm putting these guys on. If I want to go really fast and it's all blue groomers and a little choppy, I'll put on my cambered condors, which I'll show in a minute. But anyway, you can move these from board to board, which makes it so much fun.
Mhm.
Most other skis or other ski boards, they drill them in. So they're
Mhm.
stuck. They're also not coming up and angled. So again, they're flat on the board. This gives you a little bit more control of the board and the feel, like I said before. So these guys won't even carve. So what's the point of having a ski if it doesn't carve, right? I mean, you're familiar with that, right? Carving is how we turn when we're skiing. We kind of lean and we go around. These guys are so wide that and they don't edge as well that they call it slarving. And I picked up that word from the ski board community. I thought it was a bunch of hokey pokey BS. But they actually call it slarving, which is a combination of carving and sliding. These are a hoot to take out when there's a lot of powder or when there's, as long as it's not too icy, obviously. These are a lot of fun. They were my first board. I wore them for a couple of years. And then when I really wanted to tackle more aggressive blue-black groomers, that's when I went to the spliffs. So
Mhm.
my evolution was in that direction. And then a couple years later, I've been using these now for like over 8 years or 9 years now. Then I ended up with these bad boys. And this board is what's called the cambered, the cambered. So again, if you put one board under it, you'll see that it kind of bows. This is the cambered condor. And they will tell you the instructions on the actual website, skiboardsonline.com, when they talk about this board. This is like for more intermediate or advanced riders. I figured I could handle it no problem, and I can, and I've skied in this, and I really like it. This feels almost like a true skate. This thing
Mhm.
moves really fast. It's not rockered. It can handle some powder, but this thing is sharp and edges, and this thing moves really fast. And as much as I love my splits, because everyone on the board, the Skiboard Connection on Facebook, which everyone should join if you're interested, everyone knows there. Everyone sees my comments. I love the spliffs. I tell everyone start with the spliffs. This cambered condor is a beast of a ski. When I'm on this, I feel like I'm on just normal ski. I'm flying down, but I also know I'm still safe. It's still very wide. I can handle moguls if I have to. It's beautiful. So I really like it. Those are the
So
first
the
three that
the
I
few
have. I have
times
one more, but go ahead and ask some more questions so I don't bore everyone to death.
well, if you want, grab the other pair. And while you're grabbing it, I'm going to ask you because, I've only been skiing a handful of times in my life. And one of the critical issues is, especially for beginners, when they fall down, is figuring out how to get back up.
Yeah,
So,
you want to
like on
follow the
these
same
things.
advice, which is you lean into the mountain, you push yourself off the mountain, and come back up. Now, when you have a long ski and they're crossed, you can't do it. If you have a long ski and you slide, you can't do it. When you follow ski boards, getting back up is very easy. And a lot of people, myself included, I don't ski with poles or use ski boards with poles because you have so much body maneuverability. It's almost like, in sports medicine, we have something, in sports, something called universal athletic position, which people look it up on Google, go to UAP, which is like the basic starting position for almost any athlete in any sport. So whether you're a shortstop and your hands are on your thighs, or you're a volleyball player, you're waiting and you're kind of down, or a tennis player receiving a serve, or linebacker looking around, it's that same position. You can ski in that position, which is a very athletic, easy to move position. You can also be upright and almost straight up and ski parallel skiing back and forth. You can merge them, you can combine them, anything you want to do. But when you fall and you want to get up, getting up is as easy as just basically pushing up and coming up because the boards are so much shorter and you have so much more control over them. You lean those edges in, and just because they're wider, you get more leverage packing in versus a skinny board, and it just kind of holds you and you pop back up. It's
Well,
extremely
you
easy.
probably don't cross your tips.
And trust me, I've fallen down many times. Yeah, you don't really cross these. My famous example was, I think, with my vocal carvers back in the day, or it was my tornadoes. I forgot what ski I was wearing. I was at Vail and I was going down North Star, and it was groomed at that time. A lot of times that's a black slope off the back, and sometimes it has moguls, sometimes it doesn't, but it didn't this time. And I was really excited. This is years ago with my dad. And I'm
Mhm.
going down this slope and I'm moving like high speed. I'm flying down. I'm feeling like, yeah, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. No problems. And as I'm getting close to the bottom, because I'm moving probably well over 40 miles an hour. I mean, I'm moving fast. I'm like checking my goggles. I'm kind of cocky. I know what I'm doing, right? I hit a snowboard rut. So for those of us who ski, a lot of snowboarders will make really deep indentations. Well, I was going down or turning a little bit, maybe carving. What happens is one of my skis got caught. It went over the other ski. I basically flipped over. I did actually an entire flip because I remember going in the air like, oh, I wouldn't say it
Yeah.
again. And I flipped and I landed on my back. And so my dad, I think, was already ahead of me. And other skiers were slowing down to see if I was okay. I mean, it was pretty dramatic. It wasn't even a yard sale. I was rolling. I just flipped and landed flat on my back. Well, I had a little pack of like apple juice in my bag, and it broke and it went everywhere. So people thought that I was like paralyzed, and I soiled myself, and they're all nervous. I'm like, no, I'm perfectly fine. But for the rest of the day, I smelled like apple juice, and that was the story of that. But had I been wearing ski boards back then, I wouldn't have been able to turn it enough to turn to flip, because you have so much more control over these, and they're so much easier to maneuver that you're not going to get stuck in a rut. You're going to slide right over that rut. The safety, I cannot say it enough times, Mark. The safety component of ski boards cannot be matched. If you want to get out there on a mountain and want to have fun and be as safe as you can, it doesn't mean it's zero risk, because anything we do is zero risk. Jogging, walking, you can hurt yourself doing anything. But if you really want to minimize risk with being on a mountain and coming down, looking down in a ski formation, snowboards are different. The only way to go is ski boards. There is really no other way to go. And I will touch on this because it's a lot of information. They're not ski blades. Ski blades are the short, narrow ones that can't do powder, and they wear your quads out. And I had a pair of head salamanders years ago before I got into these, kind of as I was transitioning between skis and ski boards before I really found these. And those are not the way to go. You want ski boards.
So are they easy to take care of? I mean, what do you have to do to them, between uses?
Generally speaking, depending like normal skis on how many days you're skiing on them, you might have to edge them and you'll have to wax them as well. I do all my own waxing myself. I don't worry about scraping it because I know on the first few runs it's going to wear out. You'll then edge it. You can learn how to edge, or you take it to a shop if you're uncomfortable, and that those guys are trained professionals and they'll do it for you. That's really the only maintenance on them. They're very easy to take care of. They're very light. They're not super heavy. You take the bindings off of them so you can really move them around. When I travel, I stack them several at a time and just put like sweatpants between them. And I usually travel with three of them, three different
Do they
pairs.
fit in your
Because I'm
car
so
trunk
hoping to
or
get a lot of
hatch?
powder,
Do
so.
they fit in your car trunk or hatch?
Yeah, I mean, I put them in a normal ski bag, but then I roll the ski bag short. So every time I go to the airport, TSA goes through and it's like, what is in this? Because it's all clothing. Because the boards are so short, they're not, normal ski might be this much longer, so they have to like look in there and see what's in there. Then they see it, they go, oh, it looks like something like a ski, snowboard, something, and they let it go. I've never had a problem with TSA before. But you can travel with them. They're very easy to travel with. And you could even like leave them in your car if you're going to go locally. They don't take up a lot of room because they're so short. I mean, the shortest ones I have are the blunt XLs. The longest ones I have are probably the Condors. I think the Condors top out at about 110 centimeters. They do make them longer, and they do make a different variety, Revelate, that's also a narrower board, which is going to be more for people on the East Coast who are going to be doing a little less powder, a little bit more on the groomers, a little more icier conditions. I prefer to ski as much as I can out west. And because of that, I like the wider ones. And I also, again, like that stability and that feel. There's nothing like driving down a really good, steep blue slope or black and carving. And if you were underneath, you'd be able to read the bottom of the boards. I think it's so cool. I've done that before. I'm dragging my hand on the slope. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And again, they're a lot safer. And I love the Revelates because of the riser, the flex in the board, the ability to move it around as well.
When you have to make a rapid succession of quick turns, are they faster or slower than skis or simpler?
Dramatically faster. There is no amount of steepness that I'm worried about when I wear ski boards. You could drop me off any type of really any type of bowl or anything else, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. Now, if it keeps going down and you have massive moguls, that's another issue. Only because I'm not going to be as fast as someone who's maybe 50 pounds lighter than me and 5'7", 5'8" versus 6 foot 200 pounds of muscular. I'm going to be slower. But I have no fear of any type of heights whatsoever with these. I can carve through anything and that's with any of them that are either that are going to be cambered, because the camber boards allow for the better carving. The blunts that are just rocker, not carved, not cambered, they will tend to slarve and slide more. I can still handle really anything, but they're a lot of fun because you're kind of like floating down the mountain versus really carving it like a ski, like you can with the Condors, or you can even with the Spliffs. And there's one more set I'm trying out this year, which will be the Playmakers. And this is a new design board for them. And what they did was, instead of making this a cambered board, they made it thicker. So when you drive on it, the actual weight and size and rigidity of the board will allow it to lock in for carving versus a camber, which then drops down and allows you to carve. So they recommend this board for people who are over 200 pounds, whereas the split they'd be recommending for people who are under 200 pounds. I think I'm a good person to test these out because I weigh about 200 pounds. So you better believe I'm going to be taking both of them out and comparing and contrasting and see how they are. What I'm going to try to determine is, will this board carve as well as the split for someone who weighs around 200 pounds? That's what I'm going to look for. But again, in powder also, these are going to be really important to go with. They're a lot of fun.
Very cool. Looks like a lot of fun, man. You make me want to try it.
It's, it's the excitement level for it. It's getting people who no longer ski to get out again. I have, as you know, a very active patient base. I can't even count anymore how many people I used to ski. I won't do it anymore. I blew my knee out. I had a meniscal tear. I have an ACL. Mark, as you know, in August of 22, I had a hip replacement. I rehabbed it very quickly with shockwave and some exercises. I'm a rehab guy, so it's very fast. I was ready to ski a few months later, but I waited till 6 months until my wife and my surgeon cleared me. She didn't want me going. And I didn't even hesitate about putting on ski boards and getting out there because I knew how easy it is and how easy it is to control the boards, how much fun it is to use them. And if I fall, I'm really not worried about tumbling and all that, yard sale stuff. You can really control your movement on the ski boards. And so for any type of musculoskeletal condition that would maybe prevent someone from skiing on standard skis or a fear element or whatever, go with Revelate ski boards. You are going to absolutely love them and enjoy them. And if you have any questions, you get on the Skiboard Connection on Facebook, ask around. The owner of Revelate is Greco, and he can answer any questions. I make my recommendations to the patient, then I have them talk to Greco, and then Greco gets them going. And again, I don't get compensation. I don't get anything out of that. I get the pure enjoyment that my patients or my friends or whomever I've connected with online can ski again, do it in a more safe fashion, and love the heck out of it and have tons of fun. It's really enjoyable.
Very, very cool, man. I hope you get to do it a lot this year.
Me too. I've a couple trips planned, and hopefully even locally, if it ever snows here in Maryland again. Geez, for the love of God! But if it ever snows here, I'm sneaking out, man. I'm going out, and I'm driving out, and I'm gonna hit. It's an epic pass, the hills near us, and I will get out there and be throwing on one of these babies, and hopefully enjoying the day.
I love it,
And
man.
I want you to come with me and get some ski boards.
I would love to. I would love to.
Boys. It's time. We should definitely do
that. That'd be fun. So check us out on don'tbeameathead.com. Alan, where can they find us on social media?
Find us on Twitter, YouTube at Don't Be Meathead. Find us there. Please share this information with everyone. Please subscribe. We're trying to grow it. This is a ski board topic, but we do a lot with kids sports and injuries and topics about coaching and parents and refereeing. It's really applicable if you're active, your kids are active. As I always say, help us, help you. We're here for you. Any questions, concerns, throw them our way. We'll definitely answer them and help you in any way that we can.
All right, man. See ya.